Security is important. While that is obvious, the lack of security awareness among everyday people is painful to watch. It's equally painful to see experts assume everyone has the same deep understanding of security issues, then design or recommend advanced setups that are hard to use and easy to screw up. Security is a broad topic. I am by no means an expert in many of the areas, but I have witnessed many of the security issues people experience. With crypto prices going up and down, and with the recent bear market that we are all in, the market bustling with activities, in terms of a lot of security issues. The activities are to a certain extent aligned with security issues, where you hear this project is down, for example, like Luncy, there is Terra Classic projects and the rest, and with the recent stuff that happens to Sam, Fred. So all these issues are reasons why we have to bring you guys something like this, so that we believe for sure it is going to aid you guys to understand how and why you are to safeguard your token and what steps you have to take in order to ensure that this for sure happens. To a large extent, we are going to be synchronizing one or two things and also bringing down what CZ actually gave him one of his article. So we'll be synchronizing those things together, and we believe at the end of this very video you'll be able to take one or two security tips that will for sure enable you secure your asset accordingly. Hi YouTubers, I'm Crypto Solutions, back with an interesting topic. As I've said earlier, in today's topic we are going to be looking at security and how we can actually safeguard our asset in the blockchain space, in particular our asset that we have, the cryptocurrencies and the rest. And if you are watching this for the first time, please do us a favor by subscribing to our YouTube channel and also share this video so that the security tips we're about to share will go viral. Thank you. Let's jump into it. First and foremost, guys, I want you to understand that there is nothing that is 100% secure. There is nothing, like on this planet, nothing is 100% secure. In one way or the other, there are one or two factors that can happen, and in one way or the other you get to lose your asset. But what we are trying to do here is to give you some certain tips that you are going to use to ensure that you secure your asset to the best of your ability, like normally. So if in case anything maybe happens that is abnormal, then that you've done your own part and you have nothing to regret about. Now say for example our little planet gets hit by an asteroid. Your funds are likely to be safe no matter how you store it. Yes, you could store it in space, but let's see how long that lasts, or if it is worth anything. Once the art is gone, you probably won't care at that very point. So the idea here is we want to illustrate something very important, because the point here we're talking about here is how safe enough is the security stuff, or the way you are saving your own asset is how safe enough is it, because that is one of the major things we all need to look at. And according to what CZ said in one of his articles, he said safe enough is actually has different definition and purpose for different people. For example, say if you store $100 in your spending wallet, you probably don't need ultra high security. Your mobile phone wallet will likely do the trick. If you store millions of dollars or your life savings, then you will want to have some strong security measures. Yeah, because if you're storing like $1 billion or $1 million, then for sure you need a strong security stuff to ensure you put those security checks in place to ensure you don't lose your maybe life savings, and the rest. So the idea here is, according to CZ, we're going to work with one of his articles that he said he's going to give us some basic tips, like 3 things to follow in order to 3 good tips to secure your coins. You need to do just 3 things, and these 3 things we are going to take them one after the other. The first being prevent others from stealing it, the second being prevent yourself from losing it, And the third here is have a way to pass them to your loved ones in the event that you become unavailable. So these are the 3 tips today we're going to look at, and these 3 tips were actually shared by who? By CZ himself. So I'm going to read what CZ said, how he said it, and it's actually very powerful that you go through these things and understand them properly. What are the 3 tips we're going to give out today? We're going to give out the 3 CZ tips, which are: number 1, how you can prevent others from stealing your own asset, how you can prevent yourself from losing it, and third but not the least, have a way to pass them to your loved ones in the event that you become unavailable. Unavailable in code, you should understand that. Alright, simple, right? Well, all 3 properly require some knowledge, effort, diligence that is not known to or often ignored by most people. So we need to follow these things one after the other and see how these things align with each other. But I think there are some certain things we need to know before we jump into these 3 things in detail. In order to do that, we need to understand what private key is, and also need to understand what a seed phrase is. To just in a short definition, when we're talking about private key here, to a large extent, are just combination of alphanumeric characters, where you can see capital K, small x, maybe B, A, C, alphanumeric characters, and they are long. These characters are long, and that is what they call the private keys. While the seed phrase are to a large extent 12 to 24 plain English words in a particular order, and they can be used to generate a set of private keys as well. So many wallet, as we know, like Trust Wallet, SafePal Wallet, and a lot of wallet out there use the seed phrase concept. And we're going to actually just focus on talking about the private keys, and these private keys are just the same thing. When we talk about private keys, just assume they are the same with the seed phrase. With that being said, now let's look at the 3 tips we actually talk about now, relating them to the private keys. Just like I said, the first tip, which was actually given by CZ, number 1 is to prevent others from obtaining your private keys. Now we are bringing private keys inside. That is preventing hackers, securing your computers from viruses, from the internet and the rest. And the second tip, just like we said, is to prevent yourself from losing your private key. When we talk about private key here, please also put it's all the same thing as your phrase, your seed phrase. Having backups to prevent loss or damaged devices, and securing those backups accordingly. And the last but not the least, just like we said, have a way to pass your private keys or your seed phrase to your loved ones in the event of a death. It's not a pleasant scenario to consider, but as a responsible adult, to your loved ones and your family and the rest, you must manage that risk as well. And a lot of stories has been told of a lot of people that actually hid those kind of things from their family and they died, and today those things are just hanging in the air without anybody accessing them. All right, that being said, let's look into these things one after the other, and we are actually going to look into these things according to the explanation of CZ himself. So I think it's good. Let's actually jump into the first one. Okay, number 1 here is prevent others from obtaining your private keys or your keys, and this is one of the obvious one. And we have had a lot of stuffs about hackers, viruses, Trojan horses. You don't want any of this near the device you store your coins. To achieve that with a decent degree of confidence, your device should never be connected to the internet, and you should never download any files to that device. So how do you use a device like that to send and receive crypto securely? I think that should be the question now. Okay, let's talk about the different devices you could use. The first here is a computer is an obvious choice, and often the most versatile. If you choose to use a computer to store your coins, then you should never connect that computer to the internet, or any network at all. If you ever connect it to a network, there is a chance a hacker could get into your device by exploiting a bug on the operating system or other software you use. Software, as we all know, is never bug free, and if anybody should tell you that a certain software is bug free, then I don't think the person is telling you the truth. So how do you install software on a computer that's not connected to the internet? How do you do that? You use a CD-ROM or USB stick. Make sure it is clean. Use at least 3 different antivirus software to scan the hell out of it. Download the software, operating system, and wallet you wish to install to the USB stick. Wait for 72 hours. Check the news to make sure there are no security related issues about the software you downloaded or the site you download it from. Do you hear that? 72 hours, 3 days. There have been many cases where even official websites get hacked and the download packages is replaced with a Trojan horse. You should only download software from official site. Also, you should only use open source software to reduce the chances of backdoors, even if you are not a coder yourself. Open source software is looked by other coders and has a lower chance of having backdoors. This means you should use a stable version of, say, Linux, not Windows or Mac, for your operating system, and only use open source wallet software. Once you get everything installed, you use a clean USB stick to do offline signing of your transactions. This varies by wallet and is out of scope for this very presentation or this very discussion we're having today. Aside from Bitcoin, many coins don't have wallet that can do offline signing. Do you get that? So it's very, very powerful. We know that. You also need to ensure the physical security of the device. If someone steals it from you, they could access it physically. For this reason, make sure your disk is strongly encrypted. Yes, strongly encrypted, so that even if someone gets a hold of your hard disk, they will not be able to read it. Different operating systems offer different encryption tools. Again, a disk encryption tutorial is out of scope for this very explanation or for this very video. If you can follow these tips we just said, I don't think very well, I don't think you probably need to do the rest of what we are going to say, but these are very strong tips. You could use a mobile phone as well. These days, a non-rooted jailbreak phone is generally more secured than a computer due to the sandbox design of mobile operating systems. There are too many versions of Android to keep track of, and so I generally recommend using an iPhone. This is the words of Caesar. He said he generally recommends using an iPhone. Again, you should use one phone just for your wallet and not mix that with your everyday usage phone. You should factor reset that very phone by erasing all content and settings. Then just install the wallet software and nothing else. Okay? You should keep the phone in airplane mode at all times, except when you are using that very wallet to do 1 or 2 transfers. CZ also recommend using a separate SIM card for the phone and only using 4G to connect the internet. Never, he said, connect the phone to any Wi-Fi. Connect to the internet only when you are using the phone for signing transactions and software updates. This is generally fine if you don't hold super big amount in your wallet. These are all tips from CZ. A few mobile wallets offer offline signing of transaction via the QR code signing, so that you can keep your phone offline completely. From the time you finish installing the wallet apps and before you generate your private keys. This way, you ensure your private keys are never on a phone that's connected to the internet. This for sure. will prevent the case where a wallet app has a backdoor or send data back to the developer, which has happened to multiple wallet apps in the past, even official versions. But you won't be able to update your wallet apps or operating system. The way to do software update is to use another phone, install the new version of the app on that, put that into airplane mode and generate a new address, back it up, then send the funds to the new phone. Not so user friendly, I know. Also, there is a limited number of coins or blockchain supported by these wallets. You also need to ensure the physical security of your phone. Even though latest iPhone disks are supposed to be fully encrypted, there are reports of devices that claim to be able to unlock iPhones when they have physical access to it by cracking the PIN code. Okay, let's talk about hardware wallet. You could use a hardware wallet. These devices are designed, the hardware wallet actually designed so that your private keys never leave the device. So your computer won't have a copy of it. The signing of transaction happens on the device, but nothing is 100% infallible. Hardware wallets have bugs in the firmware, software, etc. There are many different hardware wallets on the market. It is generally advised to select an older and more established brand as they have been more tested. From the two major hardware wallet brands, one has a few different reports on the fact that if a hacker has physical access to the device, they could extract your private keys easily. So you will want to make sure you hold on to it securely. Also, almost all the hardware wallet require interaction with a software running on a computer or mobile phone to work. Here, you still want to make sure your computer is clean and hacker virus free. There are viruses that switch your destination address to the hacker's address at the last minute. So do verify the destination address on the device carefully. And you still have to keep your computer secure. With hardware wallets, they do prevent some of the basic types of exploit to steal your private keys by hackers. But I still strongly recommend, when I say I mean the CZ, actually still strongly recommend using a very clean computer just for it, that you do not use for anything else, and with the firewall turned on to the max. Overall, though hardware wallets are good choice if you wish to store coins on your own, the tricky and often weakest part about hardware wallets is how you store the backups, which we'll go over in the next section. So that is in the next tips that he's going to give you. So there are many other variations of wallet and devices, but he said he won't be able to go through all of them here, but the above are the most standard categories that we have actually said. And now that we have discussed how to reduce or eliminate the chance of someone else accessing your keys, we are about to now look at the other part of how you can secure your asset yourself. So the next thing we're going to look at now has to be how to prevent yourself from losing your keys. You could lose the device you use to store your coins, or the device could get damaged, so you need backup. Very important. You need what? Backup. There are many different methods here as well. Each has pros and cons. Fundamentally, you want to achieve multiple backups in different geographic locations that other people can't see. You could write it down on a piece of paper. Some wallets using Seeds advise this, as it is relatively easy to write down 12 or 24 English words. With private keys, you could easily make a mistake with capitalization or illegible handwriting. Like you want to write 0, and O, these are two different things that actually looks the same. And it will be very hard to figure out what went wrong later. There are some serious problems with a piece of paper though. They can easily be, number one, lost among other pieces of paper, damage in a fire or flood, easily read by others, it means there's no encryption. Some people use bank vaults to store paper keys. I generally don't recommend this. If I say I mean CZ said he generally don't recommend, doing that, like, using bank vault to store anything in paper. That this position, for the reasons he has already listed above, that I mean that they can get damaged, it can get anything can happen. That does not mean that to a large extent the bank is not that secure as many people think they are. So, and don't take a picture of the paper. That is another error that people make. And I've seen that myself personally. So don't do that. Don't screenshot. Have it synced to the cloud and think it is safe. Backup. No, once it is on the cloud, once it is out there, it is not safe. If a hacker hacks your email account or computer, they will find it easily. Plus, the cloud provide many, the cloud they are provide that may have multiple copies of it stored in different places and have employees that could view them. There are metal tags designed specifically to store backups of seed. These are supposed to be nearly indestructible, which mostly solve the problem of being damaged in fire or flood. But it doesn't solve the problem of lost or easily read by others if given physical access. Again, some people store this in banks vault, usually together with other gold or other metal. I guess CZ said this is easy for people who are into metals to adopt. If you use this approach, you could understand its limitations and risks. For those of you that are storing their stuffs in the vault, I believe we all know, we've seen all its limitations and the rest. And to crown this very point up, CZ recommend using USB sticks, but he said it does require a bit more technical involvement. There are shock, water, fire, magnet resistant USB sticks. He said you could store encrypted versions of your private key backup onto multiple of these USB sticks and store it in different locations. This addresses all the requirements at the beginning of this very video that we just started. Multiple locations, not easily damaged or lost, and not easily readable by others. The key here, he said, is strong encryption. For that, there are many tools on the market and they evolve over time. VeraCrypt, he said, is an entry-level tool that was later revealed to have some security vulnerabilities through peer review, and development was discontinued. For this reason, he said it is recommended to do your own research and find the best and up-to-date encryption tools for yourself. It is also important not to give anyone a copy of your backup, even if encrypted. And it is recommended that you rotate your private keys, like generate new ones and transfer funds from old ones to new ones periodically. As we all know, guys, we don't live forever. A succession inheritance plan is needed in every day of our life. In fact, crypto makes it easy for you to pass on your wealth to your heirs with less third-party intervention. Again, there are a few different ways to do this. If you use the low security approach of paper wallet or metal tags, then you could simply share it with them. This has some potential drawbacks. Of course, they may lack the proper means to hold or secure a copy of the backups if they are young or non-technical. If they screw up on security, a hacker could easily steal your funds through them. Also, they could take your money away anytime they wish. You may or may not want this depending on your trust relationship with them. He strongly advised against any sharing of keys between people, no matter the relationship, for the simple reason that if the funds are moved or stolen, it's impossible to determine who moved it or who got security breach. It's just messy. That the first advice coming from CZ. He also said you could leave your paper wallet or metal tags in a bank vault or with a lawyer. But as mentioned earlier, if any of the people involved get a copy of the keys, they can move the funds without much stress. This is different from lawyers having to go through a bank to move your account balance to your heirs. If you use the USB stick approach mentioned earlier, there are ways to pass on your wealth more safely, but again, it requires a bit more setup. There are online services called Deadman Switch. They ping email you once a while, say a month. You have to click a link to log in to respond. If you don't respond over a certain period of time, they assume you are a dead man and send any number of emails where you pre-specify the content and recipients. He said he will not endorse or vouch for any of the services. You should Google them and test it out for yourself. In fact, Google itself is Deadman Switch. Deep in Google's settings is an option to let someone have access to your account if you don't access it for 3 months. Personally, he said he have not tested it and can't vouch for it. He said do your own testing yourself. So what CZ is trying to say here, he's trying to be very careful in giving you this advice. So don't say CZ said I should do this and I did it and I got this. So please, anything you're doing, make sure you test it yourself and make sure you are ready to take all the consequences if you don't do your due diligence very well. And he said, if you are thinking, oh great, I just put the private keys in the email to my kids, then please, he said, you need to go back to this very video and follow what we said from the beginning, because that is a very big mistake. You may be thinking you could put the password you used to encrypt the USB sticks in your email. This way your kid or spouse can unlock them. This is getting closer, but still not quite, as you should not leave the password to your backup out there on a server or the internet. These are the key things. Don't leave them anywhere that has to do with server or internet, and it significantly weakens security of your backups and funds for sure, because as long as it's online, tendencies are somehow, somewhere, somebody can actually get those things out without you knowing. And he now said, if you are thinking you could scramble encrypt the emails that contains the password to the USB sticks with another password that you share with your loved ones, then you are on the right track. In fact, you don't need the second password. There is an old-time tested email encryption tool called PGP or GPG, which you should use. PGP is actually one of the early tools that use asymmetric encryption, the same used in Bitcoin. Again, he said he won't include anything about that anywhere. If you want to get that, go make your research and understand it. But in summary, you should have your spouse and or kid generate their own PGP private key, and you encrypt your Deadman message to them using their public key. This way, only they can read the message content and no one else. This method is relatively secure, but it requires that your loved ones need to be able to, with a reasonable level of confidence, keep their PGP private key secure and not lose them. And if in any way, and of course, they need to know how to use the PGP email, which is somewhat technical and cumbersome in itself. So they need to understand these things, they need to know how to use it, they need to do a lot of stuff. And his recommendation is, if you can follow the recommendation we've been sharing with you so far, then to a large extent you have the basic level to store a meaningful amount of your coins yourself. But there are other ways of storing coins, perhaps using the exchanges and the rest. But in this very video, we are not going to talk about that. Perhaps we can come up with it in another video. But we have actually, to a large extent, give you guys the basic, see the 3 tips in making sure you secure your asset yourself. There are ways you can, allow the, exchanges, that is the centralized devices, or exchanges to store your stuff. But with this video, we're able to give you 3: prevent others from obtaining your private keys, prevent yourself from losing your private key, and have a way of passing your asset to your loved ones in case you are no more there. So these and many more are just the basic tips we've shared with you. We hope and believe you will listen to this and make use of it, and you should be able to store your asset yourself without any problem. We believe this video will go viral. This is just our own effort in making sure that people's assets are safe. And as I've said, all these tips are actually coming from CZ himself. So we just read some of the things out for you and also add 1 or 2 things in them to make it more understandable. We appreciate you all. We hope and believe you will subscribe to our YouTube channel and you will share this video for it to go viral for many more people to understand how to secure their private key themselves or their seed phrase. We love you all. See you sometime. If you want us to do any more videos, please feel free and drop us a comment in the comment section. We are ever ready to give you videos that are life-changing, that will actually stand the test of time, that will enable you to understand what you need to do in the crypto space and how you need to do it effectively without jeopardizing your asset. We love you all. See you some other time. Thank you.